Kathy cooked a couple of dishes and packed them in separate boxes before going to the sketchy part of the area. After arriving in front of the old woman's rundown little house, Kathy knocked and the woman opened the door.
"Grandma, I cooked these dishes and they are still warm."
Kathy walked in and placed the boxes on the wooden table. The woman nodded and sat at the table. Kathy sat next to her and took out 2 forks. Today, she was alone at home, so she cooked a meal to eat with the old woman. They both ate slowly without a word. Kathy glanced at her and said, after a few seconds of hesitation,
"Grandma."
"Yes?"
The old woman looked up.
"One of my friends wants to make youth pills. She wants you to help her,"
Kathy said cautiously while observing the old woman's expression.
"What's her name?"
"Susan." "The Dragon Tribe's inspector in the North Atlantic region? I won't help her,"
the old woman said straight away. Kathy was a little surprised, but she didn't pursue the topic since the old woman had refused to help Susan.
"However, I can teach you how to make the pills."
Seeing Kathy's awkward expression, the woman softened and changed her tone.
"Me?"
Kathy looked at her with doubt and excitement.
"Can I do it?"
"Why not? You are my disciple."
The old woman's face fell a little. She couldn't bear to see Kathy in such a hesitant and self-doubting way. She was a lively and confident girl, but she had become so hesitant and indecisive lately. The old woman's heart ached for her. A moment later, the old woman's expression softened.
"The life-death note I taught you is not a simple technique of attack and defense. It can control the changes in nature essence. Naturally, it can make elixir pills."
Elixir creation, after all, extracted the 5 elemental essences from the materials before combining them in proper proportions with special techniques in a furnace. The life-death note could use the 5 elemental essences in nature, so it could control the flows of the 5 elemental essences in the furnace. By extracting the purest essences from the materials, it could greatly enhance the success rate.
"But you can't make elixirs with mortal fires. You need to borrow the snow lion from that kid,"
the old woman continued. She called Jacob that kid instead of his name, showing her dislike for him.
"Okay, Grandma."
Kathy, who lowered her head to focus on her meal, answered gently. The old woman stopped talking and began savoring the dishes cooked by Kathy. After the meal, Kathy cleaned the table, and the old woman rested for a while before teaching Kathy how to make elixir pills with the technique. The 5 elemental life-death note was the technique that earned this woman her reputation in the world of cultivation. The note controlled life, death, and nature. She had used this technique to take the essence from nature by force, leaping from the top-tier nascent soul realm to the soul formation realm. By learning the life-death note, Kathy had undoubtedly become the direct disciple of this woman. However, due to her poor cultivation talent, the old woman had no hopes of her reaching even the nascent soul realm. Here is the key. The life-death note was the perfect counter for the Sword Shadow Scroll. While the Sword Shadow Scroll could activate the 5 elemental essences and turn the essences into sword energies, the life-death note could control and collect the 5 elemental essences in nature, and thus became the nemesis of the Sword Shadow Scroll. The old woman taught Kathy this technique, not in the hopes that she would sweep over the mortal world. Instead, she hoped that Kathy could use it against Jacob if the need shall arise. No matter how many sword energies or sword array formations Jacob released, Kathy could absorb them all with the life-death note. If the Sword Shadow Scroll was a sword, then the 5 elemental life-death note was the sheath.
"I would never allow my disciple to be slighted."
Seeing Kathy practicing the elixir-making technique with the note, the woman asked her to sit in front of her.
"Grandma, is there anything wrong?"
Kathy got anxious since she hadn't made any progress after cultivating for a long while. Although she was smart in studying, she was quite obtuse in cultivation.
Last time I gave you the life note, and now I'll plant in you the death note.
The old woman placed her hand on Kathy's shoulder, and a surge of pure nature essence entered the center of her left palm after passing through her meridians instantly. With a burning sensation in the center of her left palm, a faint silver note was printed in Kathy's palm. Golden was life, and silver was death. One was the life note, and the other was the death note. The two notes the old woman injected into Kathy's body, with her cultivation strength of the soul formation realm, were source notes. After she could circulate them proficiently, she could create limitless life-death notes. The life note could absorb the essences of nature and other people's cultivation strength. The death note could shoot condensed energy beads into the enemy's acupoints, blocking their meridians and exploding their bodies. The life-death note was a very aggressive technique, both in cultivation and combat. The old woman straightened up the nature essence in Kathy's body, and she explained to her the concepts of the notes at the same time. Kathy cultivated while she listened, feeling one cold and one hot surge of energy currents moving in her body. It was quite an exquisite sensation.
Grandma, did you say that Jacob is already at the core formation realm?
Kathy asked abruptly.
He has better cultivation talent than you. With that little help from me, he is now at the core formation realm,
the old woman said gently.
Core formation realm,
Kathy murmured to herself. According to what the woman had told her, she was now only on level 2 of the Chi refinement realm. After reaching level 10 of the Chi refinement realm, she would have the opportunity to advance to the Foundation Establishment realm. After she reached the top tier of Foundation Establishment realm, she would have the chance to form an internal core. There seemed to be a long way ahead of her before she could catch up to Jacob.
Grandma, you can speak well. Why did you pretend to be mute?
Kathy asked again.
What can I say to these mortals around me? It's enough for me to sit in the mortal world and watch the transformation of the world,
the old woman answered. Kathy didn't quite understand the thoughts of this old woman, who was already a soul formation realm cultivator. However, she knew that she was quite fortunate that she even talked to her. Time passed quietly, and the moon rose and fell. Without noticing it, Kathy had cultivated for a whole night at the old woman's place. The house looked broken, but the essence intensity in it was dozens of times more potent than the outside. After one night's cultivation, Kathy felt like her realm had elevated.
Grandma, it seems like I got a small breakthrough,
Kathy, a new cultivator, said with a pleasant surprise.
Well, you are at level 3 of Chi refinement.
The old woman, who was sitting cross-legged on her wooden board bed, opened her eyes slowly and nodded.
Thank you, Grandma.
Kathy was pleased. A smile appeared on the old woman's wrinkled face. In fact, she was a little exasperated. Kathy possessed the stone body type that was the most unsuitable for cultivation. After cultivating with a nascent soul realm life note, she only broke through one level in the Chi refinement realm.
Grandma, I have some errands to run today. I'll buy you breakfast and then I'll head back.
Kathy stretched and said,
You don't have to buy me breakfast. You've cultivated for one night, so you must be tired. I'll give you a lift.
The old woman waved her arm. Kathy felt her body being lifted suddenly. When she opened her eyes again, she was in the clouds.
You are too soft-hearted, Kathy. You don't want to fight for yourself, but I'll fight for you.
The old woman held onto Kathy's hand lightly and said while they traveled in the clouds. While feeling the mist rushing against her face, Kathy heard the old woman's words. She suddenly felt like crying. The old woman then released her abruptly. Kathy fell to the ground. When she was close to the ground, beams of light appeared under her feet and steadied her body. She looked around and found that she was standing in front of her house. Kathy looked up at the sky but couldn't see the old woman in the thick white clouds. No one could see the whereabouts of a Grandmaster of the Soul Formation Realm. In the whole world, who would have the audacity to block a Soul Formation Realm cultivator? Meanwhile, Jacob sat in his room cross-legged facing the sea. Gradually, he returned from the state of oblivion. Last night, he had tried the lightning cultivation again and unlocked 2 more openings. The progress was extremely fast with lightning cultivation. After reaching the 3rd level, the dragon cultivators would find the cultivation progress slower than before, and the unlocking of openings would get even more difficult. The early stages were easy, but the later stages were challenging. However, the lightning cultivation could not only temper his body, but also unlock the openings in the dragon core. It almost broke all the cultivation rules for the dragon cultivators. Since the newly unlocked openings were not stable, he had immersed himself in cultivation until noon. The moment he regained his senses, he heard Grandma knocking loudly on his door.
Jacob, what are you doing in there?
What is it, Grandma? Jacob immediately walked over and opened the door. Seeing the bafflement on his face, Grandma said helplessly,
Lunch is ready.